My name is Paul Luna, and you're tuned into F&B Lunacy. I am here today with cake and chocolate artist Karen Portaleo.
Hello.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
Karen, tell us about your cake and chocolate artistry.
Well, I think I have a pretty interesting career. I sculpt and I make edible sculptures. I use chocolate, I use cake, fondant, all kinds of edible mediums that mimic a lot of the mediums that I was using in my art before I got into the culinary world.
What is your food background?
Actually, my food background is very little. I did grow up in bakeries. My grandfather was a pastry chef. But I have no formal culinary training other than growing up in bakeries. So I kind of needed to have a job at one point, and my friend had opened Highland Bakery, Stacy Eames. And I said, well, I know how to be in a bakery. So I went, and that's really how it started. None of this was intentional. It's all been a big surprise.
Are you making it up as you go, Karen?
I am. All of it. Absolutely.
Do you like chocolate, white, milk, or dark?
Dark. Dark as I can get, almost baker's dark. Like I like really bitter dark chocolate. I don't like white chocolate at all. Although that's best to sculpt with. It is best to sculpt with, but as for eating, dark chocolate, hands down.
What is your greatest challenge when it comes to cakes or pastries?
I think the biggest challenge is, honestly, it's the budget or the imagination of the customer. Sometimes they have big ideas, but they have very tiny budgets, or they think, like I just did a cake, for example, where the client wanted a giant cake in the shape of Italy. And I was all excited. I'm going to cut it out like Italy, and I'm going to paint all of this beautiful stuff. And she said, oh, no, I want buttercream, which immediately put huge limitations on the creativity of the piece. And ultimately, she was happy with it, but I know what could have been. So those are the kind of challenges I think I face.
What is it like, though, when somebody comes up to you and says, I have an idea of a design, or just like you were talking about? What is your thought process in it?
Well, it depends on if they have a good idea, or if they have something kind of basic and they say, for example, the theme is, I don't know, fairies, we'll say, and go crazy. Then I have a good time. Then, they trust me. But sometimes they're very specific and they have a list. I call them scrapbook cakes, like everything that they've ever cared about in their life, they want represented on this cake. And that tends to be difficult. So I try to work with the client to imagine a more cohesive design where, it's something that they can relate to without it being like a little scrapbook of all these different ideas. So
when it comes to a cake decoration that you're doing or a creation of yours, do you tell customers how many is it going to serve, or obviously it depends on your masterpiece?
It depends. I mean, I want to make sure that I have enough cake, but they're usually not like wedding cakes. Wedding cakes tend to be very serving specific. My cakes tend to be more like, what kind of impact do you want to make? Maybe you have 50 people, but you want a life-size something. There's going to be a lot more cake. And I always say leftover cake is a good problem to have. So it's usually more an impact or how over the top do you want to be? More than how many people do you need to serve?
Is there a store-bought pastry you enjoy?
A store-bought pastry. I I do like, there's a bread, a brioche bread that I just found that I love. But that's it. It's usually things that I don't make. Yeah, I think that's it.
What about a chocolate bar?
Oh God. Well, anything, I'll try all of them. I'll try all of them. I usually go down the aisle. If I need chocolate, which is often, I'll go down and see, which one has the highest percentage of chocolate and what's mixed into it. I don't like a lot of things mixed in, but I do like some things. So yeah, anything, any dark chocolate.
Do you have any chocolate or cake nightmares?
For me, the nightmares usually come when it comes time to deliver a cake. If it's really big, delivery is just the most stressful time, because you don't want anything to fall apart or fall over. I've always said, on the day I die, I will know that I could have lived many more years if I hadn't delivered cakes. That's just knocking years off my life every time I do it.
When you talk about big, now that we're in this subject, how big is one of your masterpieces?
Well, I've done cakes that are well up into the hundreds of pounds. Yeah, a couple 100 pounds. I've done a giant octopus that was over 200 pounds and a big panda. But then I've also done installations where you basically walk into an environment and everything in there is edible. And I did one in England that was 10 feet by 20 feet. And there were creatures and witches and trees and mushrooms, and all of it was edible. So it can get really big.
And in the transportation, is the product finished, or do you do the finish work when it's transported wherever you're going to be? Because I can't imagine what kind of vehicle is there to transport such a thing.
Well, for the big installation, we had to rent a few trucks. But usually I try to have everything done, and then I travel. Well, for that project, a lot was done on site. We were on site for days putting that together. But for the average big cake, I try to have everything done, and then I travel with a kit in case anything is fallen off on the way.
Besides baking, what other hobbies do you enjoy doing?
Well, I really, over this COVID time, I've discovered, I've always liked to garden, but I've discovered that I really like playing with cement. So I started pouring a patio in my backyard, but I'm setting up little frames. And so I pour cement, and it's like flowers and all of these different shapes in my backyard. So that's my new hobby.
Fill in the blank. Cake decorating is?
Cake decorating is a really, really fun career. Yeah.
How long have you been doing cake decorating now?
It's been about 16 years now. Yeah. That's decorating and teaching. I'm teaching now internationally. So a lot of the cake making is in a classroom setting now.
Do you have any cake secrets you can share with a home cook?
I'd say one thing that home cooks don't often know about is the crumb coat. So when you're decorating a cake and you're putting the frosting on, make sure your cake is very cold. and then do a layer of frosting that just a thin layer that catches all the crumbs, put it in the refrigerator, let that frosting get hard, and then do your beautiful layer of frosting, and all your crumbs will be stuck in that crumb coat, and you can have a flawless layer of frosting. That's my big tip.
What's important in your life now?
What's important? Oh, you know, again, from COVID, what is important now is finding a rational pace, getting rid of the idea of being frantic, being more relaxed in my approach to everything, including working on new cakes and designing new classes and being with my daughter and everything, just kind of taking that COVID slowdown time and incorporating that into a way of living.
Is it working?
Well, I'm trying really hard. The Italy cake was frantic from the beginning to the end, but I was aware that it was frantic and I was trying my best to not be. And so being aware at least is a step.
Do you sing when you shower?
Yes, I do. I just installed a new bathroom. That's another thing I did during COVID. I tiled my bathroom, so now it's got a nice echo. It's a nice sound in there.
What kind of songs do you enjoy singing?
I really like, you know, the crooner kind of songs. I've really been listening to a lot of Blossom Dearie, who's a wonderful singer. I love to sing her songs. That's what I've been singing most lately.
What does playing with yourself mean to you?
Well, it's a provocative question. Oh, I'd say my second thought is that it's probably about do whatever I'm doing that I am not attached to the outcome. You know, so many things I do project oriented. So I guess being more playful with myself is doing something where I'm not attached to how it turns out.
Is there anything you would like to say that's meaningful to you?
I'm learning a lot about not being frantic, which also opens up your heart and your mind to the quieter things and noticing the more subtle elements to the world around you. And there's so much treasure in the quiet and the subtle instead of the frantic and acquisition and finishing. Peacefulness, subtlety. That's what I'm loving right now.
Can you tell us a little bit about your blackboard in the back?
This is my daughter's drawing. And she has a half sister who came over and they were drawing each other. So this is her sister's drawing. And this is my daughter's drawing.
Does your daughter pick up any cake decorating or design?
No, she has no interest. She doesn't even eat cake. She doesn't like sugar, but she's a very creative woman. She's an excellent writer. She's an incredible illustrator. She's a creative, but you know, she's spent too many nights in a bakery while I work through the night. She has no interest.
This is a bit of an odd question. Karen, do you consider yourself a lunatic?
A lunatic? Yes, in some aspects, absolutely. The more, you know, when you look at other people and you see how they think and you think, wow, I never would have thought of that way. Perhaps there's a little lunacy happening here.